Have you ever held back? Not because you didn't have the talent, not because you weren't capable, but because deep down, some part of you whispered, "You're not enough." That right there, that quiet, invisible, toxic whisper. That's self-doubt. And it's one of the most dangerous weapons the enemy will ever use against you. Self-doubt doesn't storm in like a loud threat. It's subtle. It wears the mask of logic. It speaks the language of safety. It convinces you that your hesitation is wisdom, that your fear is maturity, that your smallness is responsibility. But let me tell you the truth most men never hear. Self-doubt is not your friend. It's not protecting you. It's slowly killing you. It paralyzes your ambition. It numbs your vision. And worst of all, it tricks you into thinking it's just who you are. That your dreams are too big, that your timing is off, that your voice isn't needed. And over time, it turns you from a man of potential into a man of regret. Self-doubt is the silent killer of men. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It says, "You're not ready. You're not like them. What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you lose everything?" And every time you listen to it, it grows stronger, because self-doubt feeds on inaction. It gets louder every time you hesitate, every time you flinch, every time you look at the battlefield of life and choose to sit on the sidelines instead of stepping into the arena. And if you don't confront it now, you will watch other men live the very life you were built to lead. You'll watch from the outside, clapping for men who had less talent, but more courage. You'll applaud their wins while secretly mourning your own potential. But you are not your doubt. Let me say this clearly, you are not your doubt. You are not your past. You are not the voice in your head that tells you to shrink. You are not the fear that was planted in you by parents, teachers, friends, or failures. You are a man, and within you, right now, is everything you need to rise. But rising starts with a decision to face the truth, a decision to stop running, a decision to go to war with the part of you that keeps choosing comfort over calling. And that's what this video is about. This is not hype. This is war. This is not soft motivation. This is not about pumping you up for 5 minutes. This is mental warfare, because the battlefield is in your mind. And if you lose there, you lose everywhere. In this video, I'm going to arm you with truth, not sugar-coated optimism, but sharpened weapons forged in Stoic philosophy, historical wisdom, and unfiltered masculine truth. We'll go deep into the root of self-doubt, where it comes from, why it thrives in silence, and most importantly, how to destroy it. You will learn to kill self-doubt, not manage it. You're not here to manage your fear. You're here to kill it. You're not here to cope with your self-doubt. You're here to crush it and rise into the man you were created to be. Over 5 chapters, we're going to break this down. We'll dissect what self-doubt really is, not the surface version, but the deep identity-level virus that infects how you see yourself. You'll hear about men who faced overwhelming odds and didn't flinch. You'll learn Stoic tools that trained some of the most powerful men in history to act when fear tried to stop them. You'll walk away with practical, no-excuse action steps that will rewire how you move through the world. And by the end, you'll not only understand self-doubt, you'll know how to end it permanently. So if you're done, sitting in the stands, this is for you. If you're tired of overthinking every decision, if you're done pretending you're okay with average, if you're sick of watching other men lead, win, and dominate while you second-guess your every move, then this is your turning point. Because you weren't born to spectate. You weren't created to play small. You were built to lead, to conquer, to rise. And that rise begins with you taking full control of the only thing that's ever really been in your way, your own mind. So if you're ready to face the truth about self-doubt, and more importantly, if you're ready to kill it before it kills your potential, like, share, and subscribe to this channel right now, because we're about to go deep. And comment below right now, I will no longer live in doubt. Write it, mean it, then prove it with your actions. Let's begin. 1. The poison called self-doubt. Self-doubt is not just a flaw in your character, it's a virus in your mind, and like all viruses, it spreads. It infects your thoughts, it contaminates your confidence, and if you allow it to sit unchallenged, it will rot the foundation of everything you've worked for. At first, it's quiet, a whisper that says, maybe you're not ready. You brush it off until the next time. You hesitate again, and the seed is planted. The next time it appears, it has roots. You freeze up before making a decision. You overthink a conversation. You shrink in a room where you should have stood tall. You make yourself small because the virus has convinced you that playing small is safe. But here's the danger most men never see. Self-doubt doesn't stop at your thoughts. It infects your posture. It shows in your tone, your eyes, your handshake, your energy. It convinces the world to see you the way you see yourself, as uncertain, unready, unworthy. And the longer it stays, the heavier it gets, until one day you wake up and realize you built the prison with your own hands. And even though the doors are wide open, you no longer believe you have the right to walk through them. The Stoic sword against doubt. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, wrote words that cut through fear like a blade. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet battled anxiety, grief, and exhaustion. He knew self-doubt was not an obstacle, it was an opportunity. The very things trying to stop you. They're not signs that you're on the wrong path. They're signs you're getting closer to the fire. And the fire is where real men are forged. Self-doubt is not your enemy, it's your invitation. An invitation to step forward and choose who you really are. You either become the man who surrenders to fear, or you become the man who uses fear as fuel. There is no middle ground. Let's look at a man who made self-doubt irrelevant, Alexander the Great. At just 20 years old, he became king, and by 30, he had conquered most of the known world. Not because he had the most men, not because he had the most experience, but because he had absolute belief in himself, in his mission, in his right to rise. He faced massive armies that outnumbered him. He stared down nations with stronger weapons and better terrain. But he never stepped onto the battlefield wondering if he was ready. He stepped forward because he had already decided who he was. Self-doubt never had a place in his mind because his mind was trained for war. And this is where most modern men fall. We train our bodies, we train our careers, but we leave our minds wide open, unguarded, undisciplined, and soft. Self-doubt only wins in an untrained mind. Train your mind, or be owned by it. If you don't take command of your thoughts will take command of you. That is a law of life. There is no neutral ground. You are either mastering your inner world, or it is quietly mastering you. That voice in your head that says, you can't, it doesn't go away on its own. You fight it by doing the work you're afraid to do. You silence it with discipline, you starve it with action, and you bury it under the weight of consistent, courageous movement forward. The signal you've been waiting for self-doubt is not weakness. It's not proof that you're broken. It's a signal that you're standing at the edge of something meaningful. It means you're approaching growth. It means you're about to do something that matters. And most of all, it means it's time to step forward, not pull back. When that doubt hits, ask yourself, what would the man I want to become do right now? Not the man you used to be, not the man other people expect you to be, the man you are becoming. Because that man, he doesn't flinch when fear shows up. He walks straight through it, with fire in his eyes and purpose in his steps. What dream, decision, or risk have you avoided because of self-doubt? Write it down, look it in the face, then ask yourself, what would the man I want to become do next? Comment below, I choose strength over fear. Say it, mean it, then act like it. 2. The real origin of self-doubt. To kill self-doubt, you can't just ignore it. You can't out-hustle it with surface-level confidence. You can't cover it up with fake motivation or loud bravado. You have to understand it. Because a problem understood is a problem that can be destroyed. Let's get something straight right now. Self-doubt is not born from your failures. It doesn't come from a lack of talent. It doesn't come from rejection or even from the criticism of others. Those are just triggers, but the root, the real origin of self-doubt is you breaking your own word to yourself. Self-doubt begins when you betray yourself. Every time you say, I'll wake up early, I'll start Monday, I'll hit the gym, I'll stop wasting time, I'll take that leap, and then you don't, you teach your subconscious one powerful message: I can't trust myself. And trust, my brother, is the foundation of confidence, not charisma, not how loud you are, not how many people follow you. Self-trust, that quiet, unshakable belief that when you say something, you will do it. When that belief is solid, you become unstoppable. But when it cracks, even slightly, doubt seeps in. And once it finds a way in, it will try to take everything. The mind learns from repetition, not intention. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. You taught yourself to doubt yourself. Not by failing, but by hesitating. Not by losing, but by quitting. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you didn't keep the promises you made in silence when no one else was watching. Your mind doesn't care what you intend to do. It only remembers what you've actually done. Every broken promise becomes a crack in your foundation. And eventually you're standing on shaky ground, unsure why the doubt keeps returning. This is why, the wisdom of a slave who became a master. Now let's look at Epictetus, the Stoic slave who became one of the most powerful philosophers in history. He had no wealth, no title, no freedom, but he had mastery of himself, and from that mastery came clarity, strength, and purpose. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Let that sink in, because too many modern men are physically free, but mentally imprisoned. Free to choose, but paralyzed by indecision. Free to move, but stuck in the same cycles of hesitation and regret. Epictetus couldn't control his circumstances, but he refused to give doubt control over his identity. He mastered his reactions, he governed his mind, and in doing so he became greater than the kings who ruled over armies but couldn't control their emotions. Self-doubt is the price of undisciplined living. This is where most men get it wrong. Self-doubt isn't just a random emotion that hits you out of nowhere. It's a consequence, the natural result of undisciplined, inconsistent living. When your life is out of alignment, when your actions don't reflect your values, when you talk like a warrior but live like a slave to comfort, your mind begins to question you, and it has every reason to, because deep down you know the truth: I don't trust me. And trust, real, grounded, masculine trust, is earned through discipline, not desire. The way out: rebuild. Trust through action. The good news is this: you can rebuild it. You can resurrect the belief in yourself, but not through motivational speeches, not through journaling alone, through daily action, through honoring your word, when no one is clapping, through doing the thing you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it. You don't need to become perfect. You need to become reliable. Start with one small promise, one rep, one habit, and keep it day after day. Because confidence is not built in a moment. It's forged in consistency. And when you begin to trust yourself again, when your mind knows you will move when you say you will, self-doubt loses its power. The formula: trust, confidence, clarity. Self-trust creates confidence. Confidence creates clarity. And clarity is the death of self-doubt. Clarity gives you the ability to move forward decisively, to take ground, to lead yourself, and eventually to lead others. But none of that happens until you start showing up for yourself. Where have you broken your own word recently? What small, specific promise can you keep to yourself today to begin rebuilding that inner trust? Comment below. I keep my word to myself. Then go prove it. With action. 3. Turning self-doubt into power. Most men waste years of their lives waiting for self-doubt to disappear before they act. They wait for perfect timing, for perfect confidence. For some magical day when the fear is gone and certainty arrives. But that day never comes. Because self-doubt doesn't die in waiting, it dies in movement. Here's the truth. Self-doubt is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It's not something to eliminate before you rise. It's the very thing you must rise through. You don't need to be ready. You need to be willing. Men confuse readiness with strength. But readiness is a myth. No man who ever did anything great felt fully ready. Real strength isn't found in the absence of self-doubt. It's forged in your ability to move forward with it standing right beside you. Self-doubt doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're stretching. It means you're growing. It means you're standing on the edge of the unknown, where all transformation begins. So the goal isn't to eliminate self-doubt. The goal is to transform it into fuel. The Stoic shift, doubt as a signal. The Stoics believed emotions weren't obstacles to conquer, but messages to decode. Self-doubt is a signal. It's not a stop sign, it's a flare. It's your soul letting you know you're standing at the threshold of growth. Keep moving. Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Most men get this backwards. They think life gets easier once doubt is gone. But the truth is, life only gets easier when you decide to dare. The mountain isn't the problem. The hesitation is. The moment you pause, question, shrink back, that's when doubt wins. But for the man who trains himself to move in the midst of fear, that hesitation becomes his signal to act. When doubt shows up, don't hide from it. Don't bury it in distraction. Face it. Ask it questions. Use it. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? What's the worst-case scenario? What evidence do I have that this fear is actually true? Whose voice am I really hearing? Mine or someone from my past? Most of the time, the doubts aren't rooted in fact. They're built on fiction, false narratives you've carried for too long, old wounds, childhood fears, echoes of rejection or failure you haven't forgiven yourself for yet. But when you bring those stories into the light, when you stop avoiding them and start dissecting them, you reclaim your mind. And a man who reclaims his mind is a man who reclaims his future. Let's look at a real example. Theodore Roosevelt. As a child, Roosevelt was asthmatic, frail, constantly ill. Doctors told him he'd live a short, soft life, but Roosevelt refused to let weakness define him. His response? One powerful declaration: "I will make my body." He trained obsessively. He read thousands of books. He became a cowboy, a boxer, a soldier, a president. He lost his mother and his wife on the same night, and still he rebuilt. He didn't wait to feel strong. He built strength in the wreckage. In his most iconic speech, The Man in the Arena, Roosevelt gave the world a battle cry for every man struggling with self-doubt. It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. That's you, the man who dares, the man who moves, the man who refuses to be ruled by hesitation and fear. Self-doubt cannot survive in the arena, because once you step into the fight, you shift from theory to truth. You stop imagining who you could be and start becoming him. Action is the medicine. Here's the rule. When in doubt, move. Every time you take action despite doubt, you build something more powerful than motivation. You build proof. Proof that you can handle fear. Proof that you can trust yourself. Proof that you are not fragile, you are forged. And over time, that proof becomes your identity. You don't need to walk around acting confident anymore. You are confident because you've earned it. Confidence no longer becomes a performance. It becomes who you are, and that kind of confidence, it's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's calm, grounded, unshakable. Stop worshipping certainty. This is what keeps most men stuck. They're addicted to certainty. They want guarantees, they want signs, they want to feel ready. But the truth? Certainty is a lie. You'll never know if it's going to work. You'll never be sure how it ends. And you don't need to be, because the man who moves without certainty, the man who takes action in the face of fear, becomes unstoppable. That's courage. Not the absence of fear, but movement in spite of it. The world doesn't reward comfort. It rewards courage. The man who moves becomes the man who leads. Every single time you act in the presence of doubt, you win. Even if the outcome isn't perfect. Even if you fall. Even if you fail. Why? Because you're training yourself to trust your instincts, to rely on your strength, to become the kind of man who leads his own life, regardless of emotion. Eventually, your inner language changes from, "Can I do this?" to, "I'm already doing it." That shift is where real transformation begins. Where in your life are you waiting for more clarity or confidence before taking action? What's one small, courageous move you can make this week, despite the doubt? Comment below. I move forward even when I doubt. And then go prove it. 4. Silence the world. Build inner authority. Most men don't realize this. Self-doubt isn't just an internal enemy. It's an external infection. It seeps in through comments, glances, opinions, through the voices of people who haven't walked your path, fought your battles, or carried your burdens. And yet they speak, they advise, they criticize, they mock. And somewhere along the way, you start believing them. Not because they're right, but because you let their voice become louder than your own. External noise versus internal power. Let's make something clear. Other people's opinions are not your compass. And the man who builds his identity based on the outside world will always feel empty on the inside. You don't doubt yourself because you lack ability. You doubt yourself because you're standing in a world built to distract, compare, and confuse. And the louder the world gets, the quieter your inner voice becomes, unless you learn how to defend it. The Stoics mastered this. They didn't try to control the world. They mastered the art of self-control. Epictetus, born a slave, taught his students this single, life-changing truth. Some things are within our power and others are not. What people say about you, not in your power, what you choose to believe about yourself. That's your domain. That's your weapon. That's your responsibility. The divide between approval and authority. If you want to build unshakable confidence, draw this line today. Approval is external. Authority is internal. And the more you chase the first, the more you sabotage the second. You can't lead your life while trying to please everyone else, because the man who tries to make everyone comfortable is always uncomfortable in his own skin. Here's the truth. Most people who try to control your choices couldn't handle the weight of your mission for one day. So stop seeking permission. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be effective. The artist who refused to ask permission. Let's go back to the Renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci, born out of wedlock, no noble title, no access to elite education, no pathway laid out for success. But none of that stopped him. He painted when others mocked his technique. He designed machines that didn't exist for another 400 years. He studied human anatomy in secret, dissecting over 30 corpses in his lifetime, not for money, not for applause, but for truth. Why? Because he wasn't waiting for applause. He wasn't waiting for the world to tell him what he could or couldn't be. He listened to one voice, his own. That's what real inner authority looks like. It doesn't ask, do they like me? It asks, did I honor my purpose today? And that mindset, that clarity, outlives every critic. Kill the need for approval and watch doubt die. Self-doubt thrives when you're addicted to being liked, because now every move you make is filtered through the question, what will they think of me? And so you stay silent when you should speak. You shrink when you should expand. You delay when you should act. And over time, you forget what your own voice even sounds like. But the moment you say, I'm done performing, the moment you stop living to be accepted, something inside you shifts. You become solid, not in arrogance, but in conviction, because when you build your life on principles, not applause, not trends, not validation, you become unshakable, and in that silence, self-doubt suffocates. Self-belief isn't loud, it's disciplined. Confidence isn't about noise, it's about consistency. The man who honors his routine, who speaks truth when it's inconvenient, who follows through without fanfare, that man builds quiet dominance. You don't need to prove anything, you need to become something. When you develop internal authority, you stop over-explaining. You stop chasing applause. You stop watering down your mission to fit into their comfort zone. You build a mind they can't manipulate and a spirit they can't break. Train the only voice that matters. There's only one voice that shapes your future, the one inside your head. If that voice is filled with doubt, hesitation, and fear, you must retrain it. How? Through discipline, through integrity, through repetition, through silence. When you silence the noise of the world, you can finally hear the truth inside you. And when that voice becomes grounded, when it stops wavering with opinion or rejection or failure, you become dangerous, because you are now the authority of your life. Where have you allowed the outside world to dictate your path? What decision, action, or bold move have you delayed because of fear or judgment? Write it down, then write the decision your highest self would make if no one was watching. Comment below, I no longer need permission to be who I am. 5. Build an identity that self-doubt cannot touch. You want to kill self-doubt once and for all? Then stop fixing symptoms, stop looking for confidence tricks, stop chasing motivation like a drug, stop waiting for applause to give you permission. Start building something deeper, a man who cannot be shaken, a man whose identity makes self-doubt irrelevant, because in the end, it's not fear that holds you back. It's the version of yourself you've accepted as real. You don't rise to your potential, you fall to your self-image. If you see yourself as weak, you'll fold. If you see yourself as unworthy, you'll hesitate. But if you see yourself as a man of principle, power, and persistence, fear becomes background noise. You don't become, you decide. The Stoics had a secret that modern men have forgotten. You don't need to feel like the man to be him. You just need to live like him. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, didn't write his meditations to impress others. He wrote them to remind himself of the man he was building. He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That one line can redefine your entire life. Stop theorizing, stop analyzing, become. Be the man who keeps his word, who trains when it's hard, who leads when it's uncomfortable, who speaks truth without apology, who builds, protects, and conquers, not because he feels ready, but because that's who he's decided to be. The man who refused to be defined. Consider Frederick Douglass, a man born into slavery, denied education, beaten for seeking knowledge, and yet he refused the identity given to him. He taught himself to read. He escaped bondage. He spoke with power. He changed laws, nations, and history because he redefined himself. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't ask the world to believe in him. He believed in himself first, and then he made the world catch up. That's how you kill doubt. You outgrow it. You rise above it. You become too solid, too grounded, too real for it to survive. The discipline that builds the man. Let's get brutally honest. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a reputation you build with yourself. And reputation is forged through discipline, not motivation, not emotional hype, not waiting for the perfect moment. Discipline. Waking up when it's hard, training when it's inconvenient, speaking truth when it costs you, doing what you said you would do when no one is watching. That's how unshakable identity is built. And once you know who you are, self-doubt has nowhere to land. The future you're avoiding is already waiting. Ask yourself this: who would you be without self-doubt? What risks would you take? What words would you finally speak? What empire would you start building? That version of you, that he's not a fantasy, he's your future self, watching and waiting. But he doesn't arrive through comfort. He doesn't show up through luck. He's summoned through relentless action, silent commitment, and ruthless alignment with your values. You don't become him by accident, you build him day by day. And one day you'll look back and realize self-doubt didn't die in a dramatic moment. It starved every time you chose to move forward in silence with strength. You now hold the blueprint. Use it. This isn't just a message, it's a blueprint for power. Here's what you've learned. Self-doubt is a liar. It feeds on hesitation, but it dies in action. Every great man felt it, but they moved through it anyway. Confidence is not external. It's the quiet result of daily alignment with your principles. The world's opinion is noise. True authority comes from within. You don't become confident. You become a man doubt can't survive around. Now you decide, are you going to keep waiting to feel ready? Or are you going to start living like the man you were born to be? Because the man who kills self-doubt isn't lucky. He's consistent. He's clear. He's committed. He moves. He leads. He builds. And most importantly, he no longer needs permission. What's one action done daily that reflects the identity of the man you're becoming? Write it down. Commit to it for 30 days. Let it rebuild you. Comment below. I know who I am, and doubt doesn't belong here. If this message spoke to you, share it, like, comment, subscribe, and join the movement of men reclaiming their power, rebuilding their minds, and rising above the noise. Because in a world that feeds on weakness, your strength is a revolution.